Fellow and Professor of Intellectual Property Law. She is also the Chair of the Australian Repair Network, and in that role she provides leadership and advice in policy and advocacy for the right to repair across Australia. So it's a very great honour and privilege to have Leanne with us today. Thank you.
And a very big, I'm going to just shout just in case so everyone can hear. You can tell I'm a teacher. And a very big thanks to Claire and Sue and Ballarat Repair Cafe for inviting me here today to be part of your celebrations. It's wonderful. 5 years is such an achievement, and congratulations to you all. What I would like to do is just kind of give you a bit of a broader context about why it matters so much that you do what you do, in terms of the community repair all around the world is really giving the example of changing society's behaviour from being really a linear economy of taking, making and disposing into real circularity. So it's really great. If you can't see it, you won't be it. And this is where repair cafes play such an important role in our community. So I'm just going to try and slide our way through these slides. I'm not sure how that will go. Let's see. Is that right? No. Oh, there we go. What is it? Do I need to touch it? Oh, okay. I'll get my glasses on. Thank you. Look, just to give you a bit of, as I say, of context, the right to repair really is an international movement. It started in the US in 2012 with automobile legislation, when people can't repair their cars, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. But what the right to repair movement really is advocating for is that everyone, and it's not just a consumer right, we're talking our businesses and our industries more generally, should have the ability to have their smart goods, and often our new modern appliances, all of the equipment that we have, are software embedded. You may have encountered that in your repair cafes. So all of these really convenient and digitally enhanced goods that we have across our industries, it's made it more and more difficult to keep those products in use for longer. So it's all about having the ability to have your smart goods and devices repaired at a competitive price and by the repairer of your choice, not having to go back to the original manufacturers. So what this really means, this could be really a bit of a trick, sorry. What this means is that, here we go. When we talk about the right to repair, it really means that independent repairers and consumers and our farmers and our motorists and our biomedical technicians in our hospitals should have access to the necessary parts, tools and information and equipment that they need to repair the products. And this really includes access to the software that's embedded in those products these days. So we should have the choice of consumer, that we'd be able to take our car or our devices to an independent repairer and not have to go back to the original equipment manufacturer. With price competition in that repair market, that we should be able to buy products that are repairable and durable, that they last longer. And really, the right to repair movement is recognising that repair and reuse of the products really significantly reduces e-waste. The most recent global e-waste monitor report has reported that across the world we are producing and consuming 5 times as much as we can ever recycle. So if you think about that, we cannot recycle our way out of this. We cannot recycle everything that we are currently using. So we need to be looking at alternatives, and repair and reuse is a really significant contributor to keeping those products out of the waste stream, and that's what's so important. So when we talk about the right to repair movement, as I said, it's not only about empowering us with better rights in relation to our consumer warranties and products that we buy, but it's also about reining in the original equipment manufacturers. We can refer to them as OEMs. So the big companies, the big global giants that are making our products across all industries, they're really overreaching into that service and repair aftermarket and controlling that and keeping other people out of that market. So what we're trying to get them to take more responsibility for the life and the duration of their products, but also extending open and fair competition in that aftermarket so that more people can access and repair those products, not just the original manufacturers. But also, we're encouraging better product design so that glue isn't used and that screws are used so that you're able to actually disassemble the product and open it up. We used to be able to do it, but we can't anymore. So all of these factors contribute to reducing our e-waste. But what's really important about the Repair Cafe movement and repair in general is that we're seeing the broader societal impact of repair. We see a transfer of knowledge, we see a sharing of skills and training, we see equity of access to those skills, but the social inclusivity and the community strengthening that is happening through the Community Repair Network is just amazing. And I'll speak a little bit about that as we go. And we know that the right to repair is really significantly contributing to fighting climate change. So, just a little bit of history. In 2021, Australia was actually leading the world in the right to repair movement because we were the first country to do a national inquiry into the right to repair and what the barriers were that Australians are finding to repairing all the products that we have. This was the first whole of country inquiry. And in 2020, Shane Brattenbury, our ACT Consumer Affairs Minister, took it to the Treasurer, and the Productivity did a 12-month inquiry and called for public submissions, held public roundtables, industry, manufacturers, consumers, advocates, all came together and discussed what the problems were about why we couldn't get things repaired. And what was really interesting is that overarchingly, we do hear a lot of opponents. You can imagine some of the big ones. I'll name a few: John Deere, Apple. You know, we've got some really big global manufacturers who do not want people to repair their products. There's a lot of money going into fighting against the right to repair. But our Productivity Commission, after weighing all of that evidence, realised that giving independent repairers greater access to repair suppliers and fostering competition in our repair markets would not necessarily compromise safety or discourage innovation. So we hear all the time from manufacturers, you're all going to kill yourselves if you open anything up and try to fix it yourselves. There's privacy concerns, there's security concerns, there's safety concerns. We hear all of those arguments, and there's also intellectual property concerns, and I'm happy to talk to them about that. But the Productivity Commission said we can do this without jeopardising all of those rights, and that in Australia we do have a number of unnecessary barriers to repair. And so what part of the work that I'm doing and the Australian Repair Network is doing is really trying to remove those barriers to repair. So just briefly why I'm here, I am a Professor of Intellectual Property Law at Griffith University in Brisbane. We have 5 campuses. But what is really important is most of our smart products have IP in them now. Even your toaster, your dishwasher, your fridge, your washing machine, your appliance, your coffee machine, your car, our ventilators in the hospital, our tractors on our farms, all are software enhanced. As soon as you have software in something, you bump into the world of copyright law and digital locks. If you all remember with your DVDs, back in the day when you went overseas and tried to put a DVD into your player and it wouldn't play because you bought it overseas, that's an example of a digital lock. There's locks that they put over the software in these devices that prevents us from accessing it. And really you need the keys, to put it simply, from the manufacturer. So some of the work that I'm looking at is across a whole range of industries. It fits in with the circular economy, you'll see, but it also addresses a whole raft of the Sustainable Development Goals. The United Nations Sustainable Development Goal number 12, responsible production and consumption, really strikes at the heart of good design for products and longevity of our products and electric goods. But what's really interesting, I've been working with a lot of councils and state governments around Australia about revisiting the traditional waste hierarchy. For a long time in Australia, there's been quite a focus on recycling, and now we know that recycling won't solve the problem. So if you look on the top right hand, the waste hierarchy that we all should be looking for support through our councils and state governments and federal government is about reduction of consumption. Consumption is always a big elephant in the room. We buy too much, we use too much. But how do we reuse more? How can we refill, repair and repurpose, replace, recycle, and then finally use the bill? So recycling is really always at the very one of the last resorts with our products, and we really need to be focusing more on the waste hierarchy about alternatives. Repair and reuse is a significant one. So the work I'm doing is across all these product categories. So I think it's interesting, we've got consumer electronics and appliances, it's huge. Everything in our houses, our homes, but also our farmers. We're working with the National Farmers Federation. You know that our farmers can't fix their tractors. So that is a significant issue for Australia's food security. We know that if a harvester breaks down and it's 3 days before they can access a spare part or get the diagnostic information, you can lose a whole crop. So we are currently working with agricultural machinery manufacturers and the National Farmers Federation about getting a right to repair for farmers and their agricultural machinery. In the United States, they have in a number of states those. But it's also about our cars. Our first right to repair legislation in Australia is about our cars, and it's fantastic that your independent mechanic in your town now can get access to global car manufacturers' software and the systems that you know that you have to plug your smart car into. Our right to repair legislation in automotive, it's a mandatory data sharing legislation, came in 2021. And what it means is our independent repairers in our market in Australia, which is huge, it's about a $16 billion industry. We don't make cars, but we certainly fix cars in Australia. So giving them the ability to request for and pay a reasonable cost for that diagnostic data so that they can find out whether it's a fan belt, the oil blend, or whatever it is in your car. So your local car independent mechanic can now do that in Australia, which is great, fantastic legislation. But this is also an issue in our hospitals. Biomedical technicians, very highly trained and skilled, cannot fix a pacemaker or a ventilator because that information is controlled by manufacturers. So these are big issues. So part of, when we had the Australian Repair Summit, part of the Productivity Commission inquiry, we held an Australian Repair Summit, the first one in 2021, and it was an opportunity to bring everybody in the room and talk about problems that they had around repair and any proposed solutions that we had. That was the first one. We've held 3 annual ones, and this year we're holding a repair roundtable in Sydney. It's actually next week. But we established, after that summit, everyone said, what are we going to do now? Like, this is great. So we formed the Australian Repair Network. And the Australian Repair Network is a network of stakeholders in repair across a whole range of industries. We have Karen and Danny here. Karen and Danny from the community repair space. We have Guido Purvis, who was the original person who set up the Bower in Sydney, which is 20 years of age, the first Australian repair cafe. But we have John Gertsakis from the e-waste area. We have Leslie Yates from the automotive industry. We have Matthew Steen from Choice, looking after consumer rights. So we have a whole raft of people And we are now trying to help industries and consumers and individuals elevate repair. We want a repair economy in Australia, so we're the policy and advocacy group doing that. So happy to always talk more about that. But why we're here today is that we help support our 140 repair cafes around Australia. It's fantastic. Congratulations to Victoria for having the most. It's wonderful to drive through. On the way up, I drove through Bendigo and visited the Bendigo Repair Cafe, and it's great to see I drive another hour and I'm here in Ballarat and there's one another 15 minutes away. The repair cafes are everywhere in Victoria, so well done to you. We do try to hold some online forums for them so that we can, engage and network across the groups. We know how different repair cafes are. They all operate differently. Everyone has a different model. But sometimes we have common challenges, and it's really good to talk about them and about how we can overcome them. So, that's interesting. That's a blank slide, but that wasn't before. But anyway, how does our policy compare? There was a big map of the world with lots of different colours. Australia's really fallen a little bit behind. Federally, state, local, we don't have the policy change that we're seeing in Europe and the United States. The EU has recently passed a big right to repair package, and the US has got about 17 pieces of legislation in different states going through around electric wheelchair repair, agricultural machinery repair, automotive repair, and lots of consumer electronic and consumer appliance repair pieces of legislation in place in the United States. So we've got a lot of work to do in Australia. So let's talk about community repair network. You're going to have to flag me if I go over time. No. Sorry. So our community repair network is made up of a whole raft of different things. We have repair labs in Western Australia. We have repair cafes in a lot of our states. As we said, some are members of the international group and some are not, so it doesn't really matter. We have individual repairers. We have tinkering
travelling tinkers.
That's the word. Karen and Danny Ellis, who are Mended Australia. We have repair labs, and I've even been, because I've been in this world for a little bit, I set up repair cafes in my university. For the last 18 months, we've run 13 repair cafes with our students and staff and community members, and they're just little pop-ups, and people bring broken stuff, and there's some fantastic stuff that's going on there. That's an example. This of our repair cafes. I think we've run about 13, but University of Queensland, RMIT, in Western Australia, we're trying to build repair on campus. We have students in colleges who have broken devices, clothing that need mending. Students never have any money, we know that. So having a repair service like this, but also it gives the opportunity for staff and students to come together. Students are learning the theory of how to fix things and give them the opportunity to actually put it into practice. It was fantastic. I had a lady walk past doing a forensic science degree, and she said, look, I don't know if I can help, but I've just finished a Churchill Fellowship on shoe repair. Would you like me to come on? So you just never know who's there. These are the kind of gems that you find on a university campus, but we get our local repairers come onto the campus. One of the students brought her grandmother, and she's just a sewing wizard, and she ended up running classes for a lot of the students the next time she came, which is wonderful. So it is about getting out and about and getting more people to see what repair looks like. Not only saving money, but that sharing of skills, in social inclusion. It breaks down language barriers, it's intergenerational, ticks so many boxes. So why are repair cafes so important in our right to repair movement? Across the world, we value community repair, as I said, because you're actually doing it every day. And you're discovering why it's so challenging to repair things, because you're actually doing it. So I always give a nod to the Bower. They're holding the Festival of Repair, if you happen to be in Sydney, from the 14th to the 16th of August. They were Australia's first repair cafe, established in 2014, and they run a whole lot of training workshops. They've expanded. They're a great example, and I think one of their guys was actually on Gardening Australia with Costa doing some kind of repairs of and sharpening of garden tools. So Costa's a very big supporter of repair as well. So this international repair movement, as I think Claire mentioned, there's over almost 3,500 across the world. And these are just the ones that are registered with the international group. We have a fantastic map on the Australian Repair Network website, and that's been created by Karen, so all due to Karen, that you can click on all of the repair cafes in Australia and see where they are, when they operate, and that's updated as much as we can. So if you know anyone who's running one, if you let us know if your hours have changed, that will get updated. You'll see that we've got one in Alice Springs, which is fantastic. But you can see one of our challenges in Australia is the fact that we're all focused around the urban areas. And we're really trying to work out how we can grow and expand that network. In Queensland, we have 14 in the southeast corner, but I've recently had contact with someone in Cairns and Townsville who are interested in setting things up. So we're looking at expanding that as well. Oh, mine's gone. Oh, that's okay. I can talk to that. Oh, thank you. So what we did at the end of last year to try and capture some of the repair cafes. Thank you. Sorry. We tried to do a survey, and this is one of the challenges because everyone's individual in our repair cafe movement, and conveners change and email addresses change. We tried to reach out to the group, and that was, thank you very much to Karen and Danny to help through their Facebook pages. But we did try to conduct a survey because we really wanted to just mark where we were, and so we can kind of measure the growth. Well, what was really interesting is that we wanted to hear from repair cafe conveners, organisers, some run committees, but also the helpers and volunteers that run in the repair cafe about, what are the great things about repair cafes, what are the challenges, how are people doing things. So what was really interesting is to see the numerous impacts of repair cafes, not only the economic benefits of saving people money, reducing waste, we know, but that social engagement and the equal social opportunity, the mental health and well-being benefits of being involved, the educational and knowledge sharing skills, the fact that we're really putting in place, it's place-based circular economy. Sometimes people talk about circular economy as if it's up here, it's over there, but we're living it in the repair cafe movement because you're all doing it. So I think the awareness raising, all of these factors are what's really important. And when we talk to councils and state governments, it's all of these benefits that we highlight. It's not only the environmental benefit, but the community strengthening and building. So what I thought I'd do is, we're putting together a bit of a report and that will be released. But basically what's so important is the theme that's coming out around repair cafes combating social isolation through encouraging social connection, providing opportunities for innovation. The problem solving that goes on in repair cafes is amazing. And learning new skills, sharing new skills, but also that place for someone to come. One of the most beautiful comments I received from one of the repairers was a fellow said who'd recently moved into an aged care facility. He said, I love my repair cafe. It's the only place I go to. It's my only outing. I go out once a month. I wish it was on more. I've made such a lovely group of friends. I look forward to it. I feel valued. All of these beautiful social benefits that he's experienced from being involved in his repair cafe. So we know that for a fact. This, the knowledge transfer that's happening, that training and inclusion argument, strengthening communities, not only in our educational institutions,
but all across our communities. So it's so wonderful to see a hub like this with the tool library, with other activities, because like-minded people do great things. So some of the themes that we saw of the value of being a volunteer are around that social inclusion, helping to reduce waste and save money in our community, and just feeling good and happy at the end of it. It's amazing. So these are all comments from our survey, and as I said, we'll be pulling these out. But visitors to Repair Cafe, levels of satisfaction, 86% across the group. People want more repair cafes, and they want them more often. And that's overwhelming. And as you know, that your challenge is a lot of repair cafes being so successful, they need to grow, they need to run more often, but how do they do that when they all volunteers and they don't really get any funding? That's one of the challenges. So there is such recognition and appreciation and valuing of repair and volunteers. These are just some of the comments and why people come to volunteer. There's so many fantastic stories around why people come and the benefits that they get, and they really do feel valued and part of a wonderful community being a Repair Cafe volunteer. Helpers and repairers, like Claire, I can probably sew a button on a shirt, but Repair Cafes wouldn't run if it wasn't without the rostering and the organisation. So there's really good roles for everyone. And even at my local Repair Cafe at the Gap, I know that some of the boomerang bag ladies run a sewing circle. They come, now their grandchildren are coming along to do the cupcake stall. Some of them are guides and scouts, but they have a little coffee stall, they have a little biscuits and cake stall, and they make a little kind of enterprise of the morning as well. So it's really a family affair. Some of the challenges that were identified in the Repair Cafe, these are ones that we're all familiar with, and that is around venues, appropriate venues that have appropriate insurance. Insurance is one of the biggest challenges for repair cafes. Some people are paying up to $1,500 for insurance. Some people are not allowed. In Queensland, we have legislation in the Electrical Safety Act, unfortunately, that we are only allowed to have a licensed electrician repair or touch an electrical item. So that is an incredible barrier for us. I've worked with the Logan City Council, and they've actually funded us and paid for a licensed electrician to come along to one of our university repair cafes, because no one else can touch anything with a plug in Queensland. It's crazy because we're the only state in Australia. But around finding appropriately skilled volunteers and enough of them. And so we know, and this is part of the work on the Australian Repair Network, we're trying to network together to talk about how people are solving these problems, how they use social media, how they apply for grants, do they incorporate, what business structure do they use, you know, so how best to kind of optimise or elevate the repair that's already happening across our community. What I thought I'd do, just in terms of ending, is I've just been lucky enough as part of my research to spend some time over in the UK, in Scotland and Wales and England, looking at visiting a whole lot of repair cafes, but talking also to the policymakers. For a while there, Scotland was leading. Scotland funded the first repair and share convener for Scotland. So there is a full-time paid position where that person is responsible for elevating both tool libraries and repair cafes across Scotland. And the number has grown exponentially from that position. And that person provides a platform for knowledge to be shared around establishing repair cafes and tool libraries, about venues, insurance, etc. Wales has suddenly come up a little bit more. They now have 10 staff devoted to the repair and share network in Wales. They have 5 staff that are fully funded to work in Repair Cafe Wales, and they have another organisation for tool libraries, Bethany, in Wales, and they also have 5 staff. So there are essentially 10 paid people to help coordinate and run repair cafes and tool libraries in Wales. and we are seeing an exponential growth in the impact of repair cafes in those countries where there is support for those roles to elevate. And what we're seeing is in Wales, we're working with Phoebe and Ella, who hold those roles, the key roles in repair and share, that they're actually trying to find some measure for that social impact and benefits. We get a lot of data, and all the regulators, local, state and federal, want to know what's your impact, how much are you saving, and that's why we rate things, that's why we need numbers, because everybody wants numbers. We know recycling's got great numbers, you know, it's been going for such a long time, there's a lot of money invested in recycling. The repair and reuse space, it's problematic and it's really challenging when you're busy, when you're repairing, to actually fill out a form or to capture that data. But every time I talk to policy and regulators, they say, show us your impact. And a chart or a diagram or some numbers is what they're looking for. And that's right across from the ACCC, Treasury and the federal level to state government to local government. So that's why it's important to do data collection. I'm really interested in the Wales example because they're trying to measure that social impact. It's interesting when you weigh things, how do you weigh a piece of clothing or a piece of jewellery that means so much to someone? It may not weigh very much, but it may mean the world of difference to that individual to keep that. So what does it mean to you on a scale of 1 to 10, as Sue says, of keeping this in your family or in use? It's really important. So these are the examples. This is Repair Cafe Wales. This is, I love their little robot in Repair Cafe Wales, and that is Benthic on the right. They have great platforms. They're doing, you can see in the Repair Cafe Wales, they actually do this kind of live data gathering exercise. They're actually putting the numbers around their activities. So next Monday is another example for those of you who are interested. If you want to join us, the Australian Repair Network, we're holding another online forum. So we do these in an online way so that everyone can join. It's inclusive. So we'll be talking about some of these models from overseas, some of the usual conversations that we have around how we can elevate and support repair in Australia in repair cafes. How do we build a repair economy? You're more than welcome. Everyone's always welcome to come in. You just have to email us and we'll send you a link for you to join. And just when I finish, I'm more than happy to talk to you. Wow, sorry, this has thrown out my sides a little bit, but that's okay. That all was on the thing. There's an International Repair Day, and we celebrate this every year. This first started, obviously, in the Netherlands, where the repair cafes started, but also with the Restart Project Repair Advocates. On the 19th of October this year is International Repair Day. So we will, at the Australian Repair Network, be endeavouring to highlight all of the repair activity that is happening around Australia. There is a way that you can log it in the Open Repair Alliance, and come and talk to me if you want to know how to do that. You can put your event and what you're doing, where it is, and they will advertise it as part of an international map as well to show how much repair is happening. It's happening in all European countries and all countries around the world. So I just wanted to thank you very much for letting me share a little bit of the work that I do, and I just wanted to thank you all again for being part of this movement. So thank you.
Thanks, Leanne. That was fantastic, and I'm sure you all learned stuff today. I know I have, and I found it incredibly thought-provoking. So thank you very much.
unique and important skills to Ballarat. Councillor Belinda Host, who's been a long-time environmental advocate, real driver in our community, and a Ballarat City Councillor. And Liz Wade,